Welcome to In or Out, a rapid fire game where we discuss several NBA topics and decide where we stand. I'm Tony Pesta, that's Jackson Flickinger, and please sound off in the comments with your stance on every topic we cover today. Let's start here. The NBA has a problem, and that problem is defense. Fans have been complaining about the lack of defense for years now, and it seems like Adam Silver has pulled a hidden lever behind the scenes to finally start making a change. Scoring and free throw attempts are down drastically since the All-Star break, with a 12% decrease in foul calls since the break, and Adam Silver has publicly stated that the NBA is looking for ways to allow more defensive freedom moving forward. Jackson, are you in or out on this trend?
I am in on this. I think the game has gone too far the other way, and I think the people who say that these guys don't play defense are wrong. I think the defensive ability of these teams, even in the regular season, is higher. It's like higher than maybe ever seen, just because of how much space these guys have to cover. You know, like you need Mobley and Jarrett Allen need to be able to cover ones and twos in a way that guys in the 90s, didn't have to do that. So defense is good, but I think some of the rules have made it too hard for defenses. Now, what I think is interesting is, does this benefit the Cavs? I don't know, because if you're a good defensive team and you're making it a little easier to play defense, does good defenders have the same value? So that's something that I think
that would be a good episode. Good podcast episode.
I think that's worth monitoring. What we've seen so far is just kind of a slight difference, so nothing that's too crazy. But if they went another step in this direction where they said defensive 3 seconds is no longer a thing, then I think that's a very different conversation. But I am definitely in on this from just a watching basketball perspective.
I'm in too, for sure. I think it's a little lazy to just say that teams don't play defense anymore, because it's just so difficult when you have, think of the Boston Celtics. You have 5 guys who can pass, dribble, shoot. How are you supposed to defend that? So I'm definitely in on making a little bit of a shift. I think the league, the scales have shifted a little too far towards protecting the offensive players at all costs, to where you kind of just need to find a healthy balance. I think there should be more leeway when it comes to cutting off a player's path when they're driving to the hoop. I think we should stop rewarding offensive players for initiating the contact and getting themselves to the free throw line. There needs to be an adjustment, but of course you don't want to shift the scales too far the other way. So there's going to be some experimenting here, and I think I'm mostly happy with the games that we've seen recently.
And there's a difference between no freedom of movement and let's just stop the grifting. I think the rip through shot attempts that was in the league 2 years ago or whatever, they got rid of them. It's not like you can't get rid of those grifting moves. It's not too hard. It's just let's do that.
I agree. So we're both in on that one. Our next topic moving forward, Darius Garland had, in my opinion, his best game of the season against New Orleans, absolutely dicing them up for 27 points and 11 assists on 10 of 16 shooting. Garland has been in a groove since the All-Star break, albeit with some ups and downs throughout, but this was the most vintage DG we have seen all season. So I asked the question, are you in or out on the Garland renaissance?
Yeah, I mean, he's put together several good games in a row now, not just the last game. So I'm in on that. But just so we're not saying the same thing, maybe it's worth pointing out that Donovan Mitchell was 6 for 15 last game. He wasn't really able to establish anything inside. So can Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell be back at the same time? That's TBD. But yesterday was good.
Yeah, that's a fair point to bring up. I will say I'm all in on the Garland renaissance. He has had just a wacky season full of all kinds of obstacles, the least of which being a broken jaw. This version of DG makes them a legit contender to make it to the conference finals and seriously, make some noise in the playoffs. If you get this version of DG, it's as good as the Cavs can get, especially if Donovan Mitchell is also able to integrate himself. I do want to bring up 2 stats that I pulled today that I think are interesting, because gradually, slowly but surely, Garland has been adapting to the Cavs' influx of 3-point shooting. A career high 35% of his assists this season are 3-pointers, and a career high of his field goals have been assisted on. So he is playing a little bit less with the ball in his hands, and he's making a conscious effort to generate more three-pointers, which are two things that we need to see him do. Of course, he's not perfect at it. He needs to continue to improve, but the signs are there, and I just wanted to give him credit for that.
Yeah, that's definitely worth pointing out, especially the assisting to three-point shots. There's still a lot of improvement to be made. What did Donovan have? What was he, like 45%?
Yeah, Donovan's
like
he can generate a three-point shot in his sleep. So
right. So there's still a ways to go, but that's good.
Yeah. And another note, the Cavs attempted 45 threes against New Orleans. Darius Garland generated 22 of those. So I love to see it. I'm all in. I hope that he's back. I hope that he has a really good playoffs. You know who else is back? Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson has completed his 25-game suspension. He will be available for Saturday's game against Houston. Jackson, are you in or out on Thompson still being a useful member of this team?
We need to stop agreeing on things, so I'm going to say I am out on this. No, I am...
How'd you know I was going to agree?
I am in. Well, because anything that's positive...
I'm just in on all of that.
Right. So, but no, I'm in on it just even though Damian Jones was pretty awesome last night, it was like he was... It's like he was told to put it all on the floor because he's not going to play again ever for the Cavs. So he just went out there and had his best game. But yeah, I mean, just Tristan Thompson's screen setting really opens up things for the second unit, specifically Sam Merrill. If you're gonna play Sam Merrill, Tristan Thompson's the guy you want to pair with him. So I really like the Thompson Niang minutes and Merrill. Like that's just a lineup that really has a lot of synergy. So I'm definitely in on him.
Yeah. So, I'm not an expert on what PEDs what effect they have on a player, but I look back at that Lakers game in the playoffs where Tristan came in and made an impact. And I hope that maybe if he wasn't taking PEDs during that time, where I guess we don't know for sure, but I hope that maybe he can still replicate that. And really my main thing here is that I don't think really through any stage of Tristan's career he was relying on like high-end athleticism to do what he does. It's mainly just heart and hustle. And so I don't know to what effect the performance-enhancing drugs helped him to do that, helped keep his motor running. But if Tristan's on the floor and he's healthy enough to play, I think I'll bet on that motor still running and still making those extra effort plays, which he's really been known for. So I'm not necessarily all in, but I'm not out either. I think Tristan could end up making a difference for this team.
I don't want to speculate how much the PEDs helped. Probably helped more in like the recovery and the 82-day grind. So yeah, we'll just see how he looks.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on to our next one, LeBron James, after a disappointing loss, which he's had too many of in a Lakers uniform, posted a video on what did he post on Instagram?
Yeah.
He posted an Instagram story of him driving somberly, listening to some music, like a 17-year-old in high school would post after getting ghosted at prom. LeBron is in his sad boy era. He's one of the funniest players in the NBA, whether it's intentional or not. And who knows, maybe that road leads back to Cleveland. Jackson, are you in or out on LeBron James coming to Cleveland or just being in his sad boy era?
I am in on both of those things, especially like 45-second videos. Those are great. Like, you could have conveyed it in 6 seconds, but he said, let's go an extra 40. It really brings me back to his opinion on the deluxe albums. Just more is more. So, but no, I kind of don't think he's coming back to Cleveland, but I feel like he's really happy in LA. But if he wanted to be on maybe the best team of his career, then he should come back to the Cavs. I am in on the return, but I do not see it happening. At least not next year.
I don't think I see it happening either, but I would be all in on it happening, and I'm always in for some LeBron antics on social media. He's one of the best posters of his generation for sure.
Really, that's what sets him apart from everyone else, because there's no one even close to him, really. Like, I can't believe somebody who's so brand conscious is so ridiculous. My favorite post ever is still the one in 2015 when he first came back. He had the one in the mirror where he took like the picture of him in the mirror about how he needs to like look in the mirror and be better.
Yeah.
But like he's taking it and his like body's in a way so you can't see him take the picture. I don't know. It's just phenomenal. And you're like, He was 30 years old when
generational
he
talent.
took that.
Yeah,
Like,
generational talent on and off the court. We love to see it. Let's talk about an Eastern Conference rival, Damian Lillard. Well, the Milwaukee Bucks, they haven't had an easy season, despite being firmly in the race for the second seed. All the while, Dame hasn't been his usual self for most of the year. His numbers are basically down across the board. He's shooting his third lowest field goal percentage of his career. He's still an all-star, still having a great year by most player standards. But Jackson, are you in or out? Is Dame washed up?
Yes. Yes, he is. And I think if you're looking at someone who the new defensive, like, their game wouldn't translate well to the playoffs right now if you're going to be not calling fouls the same way you do. I feel like that's Dame right now, where maybe he's not washed, but he's washed in the sense that his team needs so much from him because they have so little depth that, like, you need, like, Giannis has been phenomenal this year. Like, we've undersold how good he's been, but for how much they're playing Jay Crowder and guys like that who are definitely washed, you need like a A+ Damian Lillard, and right now you're getting kind of like a B, and if you got like a C Damian Lillard, then that's just not a good team. So I'm washed in the sense that the team needs so much from him, and I don't think he's able to be peak Portland Dame.
Yeah, I think washed might be a little too harsh. I would say more he's declined. He's still capable of destroying you for stretches. He just hasn't been able to do it as consistently as we've seen. And it's a really good point that you mentioned, because when they had Jrue Holiday, they didn't need Jrue to have like an offensive explosion. He brought so much else to the floor. Whereas with Dame, the idea was that he's going to be such a otherworldly weapon on offense that it won't matter that they're missing what they're missing with Jrue Holiday. Still, the Giannis Dame pairing is not one that anyone is happy to face in the playoffs. But if anybody can stop it, it would be Doc Rivers. So
yeah, nobody would sign up to play the Dame Giannis pairing, but everyone would sign up to play the Bobby Portis, Patrick Beverley, Jay Crowder group. Like, yeah, like, bring it on. You know, like, that's like when we talk about it, them compared to like the Celtics, it's like it's crazy comparing them 1-8 when you're talking about the Celtics, where you're like, they have 5 guys who can really hurt you, and like the Bucks are like, do they have 5 guys who can play playoff minutes? I don't know, man. So if you look at LeBron and Dame on social media and how they do interviews, Dame is washed. Like, Dame just gives just the worst content possible, and LeBron's just giving you the best content possible. So that's another thing to just point out. It just separates LeBron from his peers.
It really does. Moving into our last segment here, as we head down the stretch of the season, we are going to talk more and more about the upcoming NBA playoffs, and mostly, do we trust the Cavaliers come playoff time? One player more than anyone else will have a spotlight on him, and all we can hope is that it won't be too bright this time around. Jackson, do you trust Jarrett Allen in the playoffs?
Yes, but only if, like, he's not really playing with Evan Mobley. So that's kind of a caveat where I trust Jarrett Allen with one big. I don't trust Jarrett Allen with 2 bigs, depending on the matchup. So that's how I'll say that.
That's fair. Depending on the matchup, definitely comes into play. I do want to highlight a few of Allen's best games this season very quickly. Against Rudy Gobert, the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year, 33 points, 18 rebounds. Against Andre Drummond, who you might scoff at, but is one of the best rebounders in league history, 19 points, 17 rebounds. Against the Clippers, 20 points, 17 rebounds. In 2 games against Victor Wembanyama, a combined 55 points and 32 rebounds. Against the Bucks,
hold
24.
On. You can't throw Victor Wembanyama in there. Joel Embiid had 71 points against him.
Okay,
yeah,
well,
I mean,
nonetheless,
it's more than.
Can I gas him up, please?
Come on.
Moving on. Speaking of Joel Embiid, in a showdown against Embiid in an in-season tournament game, Allen had 26 points and 13 rebounds while holding Embiid to just 9 of 21 shooting. So all this to say, I'm in. I think Jarrett Allen, I still believe that he received a disproportionate amount of blame for the Knicks series. I think his lights were too bright comment has been kind of unfairly used against him because, and I'm sure I've said this before, but the full context of that quote is that he was being directly asked, how did the Cavs go from being such a dominant regular season team to out in 5 games in the playoffs? And he said, well, I think across the roster, the lights were brighter than expected. He was talking about the whole team, and his general point was that we weren't as prepared as we thought we were. And while maybe that's too much honesty, I don't know how you watch that series and come with a different takeaway. All the games that I highlighted show that Allen has gotten up for big games, and he has done everything in his power so far to redeem himself. All that's left to do is to do it in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Jarrett is just radically transparent in a way that no one else is. Like, even I still always think about that quote before the 2021 season where he was like, yeah, in like 3 or 4 years, we could be like the 5th seed. It'd be sick. It's like, Jarrett, what do you say?
I forgot about that one.
Like, he's just so honest, and he really doesn't care what like how you spin it. So yeah, he's great. But that quote, the lights are too bright, that's also a great quote, and he was right.
It is great. Yeah,
but
I love the quote. I just think that people have, like, you see so many people use it as like an indictment on like Jarrett Allen doesn't have competitive spirit because he said this. It's like, well, did you watch the series? Because that's what happened to everybody, not just him. So
I do want to say that game plan, him being told to step up every time Jalen Brunson dribbled the ball, just leaving Mitchell Robinson wide open. Like, come on. Like, that's...
yeah.
Like, it's on Jarrett Allen because he was the one giving up the offensive rebounds, but he wasn't in a position to do that, and I think that's more so on the coaching. So that's...
I definitely agree with that. And I'm sure we have talked about that so much on this. Well, on our podcast, the Junkyard Pod, which you should check out if you haven't, if you enjoy this content. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching this episode of In or Out. Please let us know in the comments where you stand on each topic, and feel free to suggest new topics for our next episode. With all that being said, go Cavs.
I agree. Go Cavs. Brian, sound off in the comments.